And as soon as these people disappeared, for a lack of words, wherever they went, mass hysteria began to hit the earth. People had the appearance of absolute despair, hysteria. There was pandemonium everywhere. There was mass chaos. Lawlessness and fear was working everywhere. I was able again to see in many quadrants of the earth, and there wasn't any one nation that was under this. All of the globe was experiencing this. As the mass pandemonium and despair began to permeate society, there was a very unusual event that happened. Television, telephone, radio, and this other unusual communication device I was able to see into many, many homes in the United States, these white boxes that were about this big that looked to be like televisions. And when I saw these, they were in nearly every single home in the U.S. And they would have words written across them, and occasionally it would almost look as though television was playing through them. All of those media devices were shut down for about a 2-week period. I know now that what I was seeing was personal computers in people's homes. In 1980, I've done some studies, by the way, about all the things I saw to see if, in fact, I was hearing something from God, because I'm not about to go on national television or around the globe and share this if it's incorrect. I have a ministry of my own right now, and I don't feel like jeopardizing what the Lord has established for the past 17 years. In 1980 and 81, there was less than 0.5% of American homes that had a computer in it, personal computer. IBM was just transitioning from data entry cards into hard drive and RAM memory into their computer processes. The one computer that was on the scene at the time was called a Commodore. Some of you might remember that. It was actually a word processor with a very, very small amount of memory. And so I saw these in homes just about everywhere. All these things were shut down. One of the things that was happening during this hysteria was many peoples were asking, where did these people go? What happened? And all the globe saw this event, or they experienced it afterwards. What I saw in people was that literally nearly everyone I experienced had a great look of despair and hopelessness upon their face. Everywhere I went, there was hopelessness. Nobody seemed to be happy about living. You know, I've never experienced that. I've been to a lot of public places where people are bummed out, not happy, not doing well, but not the globe in masses. I don't know, maybe you've seen that. I haven't. So this hysteria brought a complete hopelessness and total perplexity to just about everyone. The television communications were down for a period of time. Again, people have asked me, well, what do you think caused that? I'm really not positive, but I would like to put something on the overhead tonight to show you an article. And for many of you Prophecy Club folks here tonight, this isn't new information to you. For some of the visitors that might be here, this may be very new information. This was an article, let me move this down just a hair. This was an article that was given to me 2 weeks before this tour started. Let me share with you a few details. This was in the 1991 Santa Barbara, California News Press paper. This has to do with a single high-altitude nuclear blast by a rogue nation which would bombard the continental United States with electromagnetic rays, crippling civil and military electronics from light bulbs to computers. Military experts warned Congress Wednesday. Such an explosion would unleash electromagnetic pulse, would release an electromagnetic pulse that would erase computer data in banks, stock market, halt cars, trucks, shut down electricity in the lower 48 states. This is interesting to me because I prophesied a long time ago that Alaska would not experience the judgment that the 48 states would receive. I got this paper and I thought, oh, that's interesting. The pulse would last only a fraction of a second. Our civilian telephone, electricity, communications, and electronic plants are all naked to our nuclear-armed enemies, said Lowell Wood, a physicist with the Lawrence Livermore Laboratories. Even a modest single explosion EMP attack on the U.S. would likely devastate us as a modern post-industrial nation. I'll move this up just again a bit. Any nuclear-capable nation, including Russia, China, and North Korea. I'm going to talk to you tonight about North Korea, some specifics. I have some inside information that the Lord has allowed me to see about North Korea and China. Any nuclear-capable nation, including these nations, could cripple the U.S. military machine and lay waste to modern American civilization, said Wood, who also is a consultant to the Defense Department. This shutdown alarmed all of the peoples, and it lasted for about 2 weeks. Can you imagine briefly tonight all of your communications, your telephone, computers, television, and radio being shut down for a 2-week period of time? Can you imagine the hysteria? Can you imagine, the inability for a supermarket to contact its suppliers to get more supplies, or gasoline, or transactions? It's amazing when you begin to see it kind of unfold the depth. This lasted about 2 weeks. Again, I want to remind you, I was not a prophecy studier or expert at this time when this vision came to me. I began to walk the streets in shock at the current events. The events are difficult to describe because lawlessness and fear was permeating society completely. After about 2 weeks of time, television and radio began to be back up and running. However, it was completely different than what was previously being broadcast. The broadcasts were being bombarded nearly everywhere, and they were depicting a soon-to-come new government and leadership. A man would be emerging to lead us. The man finally came on the scene, and he spoke with great eloquence. I wrote these things down exactly as I saw them. He spoke with great eloquence and charisma. He was soothing and promised answers to all current issues. This man was smooth and extremely convincing, able to solve nearly all problems. He was a consummate communicator, and he explained how this removal of people was God's judgment upon them. This rattled me in the dream. I did not understand his position. Let me tell you so you can kind of comprehend where I'm coming from. Not being a born-again Christian in the dream, when this man spoke, it began to convince me. It began to pull me in to the messages. I don't know if any of you have seen old films of Adolf Hitler speaking to the masses, but he had a demonic charisma about him that would literally pull the masses to him. That was nothing compared to what I saw. Nothing. He was able to rally a nation. This individual was rallying the globe. It was very, very frightening. Almost immediately, he began to communicate through large screen televisions that were strategically placed everywhere the general populace met. Think back for me for just a few moments. 1980, 1981. Large screens televisions? No. Few pizza parlors had those projector televisions, with the 3 different colors that would project an image, but large screen televisions weren't out, folks, and neither was 24-hour news. Everywhere the populace met, big screen televisions were pumping this message. I travel a lot, all over the place, and everywhere I go, where the populace meets now, they have televisions. Restaurants have them. I've been to some restaurants where you have a television right at your table, so you're keeping up with everything. Airports, everywhere you go, everywhere the populace meets, you're being bombarded with messages. This was the norm. Now, what was strange about this is that this man's speeches and directions for the whole world had to do with new times upon us as human beings, new directives for global peace, and the need to give up current citizenship for world citizenship. This man continually and constantly spoke of world order and the benefits of all men dwelling together in peace. Now, even though I was disturbed in the dream, I was also being pulled into this because it sounded very, very good. World peace sounds good until you see the cost. Let me tell you, there is no world peace until the Prince of Peace establishes his throne on this earth. That's the bottom line. No human being is going to bring peace to this earth. Only the human being who's all human, all God, is going to bring peace to this earth. That's Jesus Christ. And so I began to really think of relinquishing my citizenship, and this alarmed me greatly. Even though this was a message that pulled strongly upon me, I somehow wasn't convinced of this new order. I constantly heard the word new order, world order, and new times, but I never did hear new world order. I don't know why. I don't know if they changed the name in the future, or if the dream was trying to show me different perspectives. I don't know. A lot of things I've asked the Lord, and He hasn't answered my questions. Some things He's answered them very clearly to me. So my freedoms and my patriotism were instantly being eroded from my understanding. Now listen to this, please, very carefully. At staggering rates, people were buying right into this plan that this man was releasing through the airwaves. At staggering rates. No resistance. No one was fighting it. No one was saying anything publicly. I can't tell you if the airwaves were controlled to the point where you couldn't come on and say certain things. It's just about like that right now in the U.S., by the way. You can't just get on the 3 major networks and say what you want. I mean, no, I'm telling the truth tonight. You can't do that. And so I don't know if that was the occurrence at the time, or if basically it was just that everything had turned over. Some things, like I said, I don't have all the answers to. I began to go into a serious depression. I began to ask myself questions. Is this the end of the world?